May is hot and dry, and the summer weather is fast approaching, so we're really only planting summer crops now. Most of the traditional vegetable crops struggle to survive during our brutal summers, so the list of what to plant is getting shorter. Pretty much the only warm season spring crops that can still be planted in May are okra, peanuts, and southern peas. The DS stands for direct sow, which means that it's best to plant the seeds directly in the ground instead of transplanting. Although we have a hard time growing most of the common garden vegetables during our summers, there's still plenty of things we can grow. There are many tropical crops that can thrive during our Florida summers. These include amaranth, arrowroot, calabaza, chaya, chayote, cranberry hibiscus, gingers and turmeric, katuk, long beans, loofah, malanga, papaya, passion fruit, pigeon pea, pineapple in Central and South Florida, roselle, Seminole pumpkin, sugarcane in Central and South Florida, sweet potatoes, taro, tropical greens and spinaches, and yucca in Central and South Florida. Some of these crops are not usually grown from seed, so I added notes about what part of the plant is most often used to propagate new plants. So for arrowroot, rhizomes are used. For chaya, you use cuttings. With chayote, the whole fruit is planted. With gingers and turmeric, they're propagated from the rhizomes. Katuk, best grown from cuttings. It can be grown from seed, but the seeds take several months to germinate, so cuttings would be a faster way to grow it. Malanga is grown from tubers. Passion fruit can be seeds or cuttings. Pineapple can be grown several ways, but it seems the most common way is to plant the crown. Sugarcane can be seeds or cuttings. Sweet potatoes, usually you use slips or cuttings. For taro, tubers are used, and with yucca, stem cuttings are usually used. I just want to point out that some of these tropical crops need a long, frost-free growing season to reach maturity. For example, malanga takes 9 to 10 months to mature. Yucca needs 8 to 11 frost-free months. Taro needs at least 7 months without a frost. And papaya will fruit after 7 to 11 months after planting. So if you live in a cooler part of Florida that gets cold earlier, then you may want to check your first average frost date and count backwards to see if there's going to be enough time for the crops to grow to maturity before a frost comes. I'll put a link in the description to where you can find your first average frost date. If you don't have a long enough window of frost-free weather, then it may be best to wait until the following April to plant, or else be prepared to protect the tropical plants if an early frost arrives. For some things, you may be able to buy plants that have already been rooted and growing for a few months to give you a head start. Herbs that can be planted in May include basil, chives, dill, marjoram, mint, and oregano. May is the peak harvest month for my spring crops, and for pretty much the whole month, my refrigerator is packed full of squash, zucchini, cucumbers, green beans, carrots, peppers, and greens, and every inch of my kitchen counters are covered with tomatoes. So in May, I'm really busy trying to keep up with using and preserving my vegetable harvests, and I don't do very much planting. I try to get most of my planting done by the end of April, but I do still plant a few things in May. This May, I'm going to be planting additional plantings of gingers and turmeric, long beans, pigeon pea, southern peas. I like black-eyed peas and purple hull pink-eyed peas, which are both types of southern peas. I'll be planting more succession plantings of sweet potatoes, sun hemp, which is a cover crop, and winged beans. Sun hemp is a cover crop that adds nitrogen to the soil, and it's resistant to nematodes. It's my first time growing it, but I've read a lot of good things about it, and I'm excited to try it. I'll also probably do an additional planting of some tropical greens and spinaches, including green callaloo amaranth, Malochia, New Zealand spinach, Lagos spinach, longevity spinach, Sisu spinach, and vegetable amaranth. I have just a few closing comments, which are basically the same as what I said in April, but everything I said in April about insects and watering your plants goes double for May. The bugs are even worse in May, and it's still a dry month, but it's even hotter. So just to reiterate what I said in April, it's important to regularly monitor your garden for pests so that you can remove them before they multiply. Hand picking is my preferred method of pest removal for most bugs, but sometimes it's necessary to use some insecticidal soap and neem spray, or some organic pesticides like spinosad and BT for caterpillars. I'll put links in the description for the products I use. I really try not to use any products when I can help it, and when I do use insecticides, I only use organic ones, and I make sure that I'm not spraying them all over everything in the garden, so I don't accidentally kill any beneficial insects. I target only the most serious pests that are doing damage. It's really important to not kill your beneficial insects, so if you have to use pesticides, then use them carefully and sparingly. And finally, remember that May is still in the dry season, and it's starting to get very hot, so your plants will need to be watered frequently. Thanks for watching. Happy gardening!